I'll have our CFO give the financial report first.
Morning, folks. Our 2023 Independent Auditors Report begins on page 142 of your digest. You'll find a clean opinion letter from our auditor, Joe Cullum. The statement of financial position appears on page 144. We ended the year with $82,712,172 in total assets. That was made up of $2.8 million in cash and cash equivalents, $62.1 million in investments, and loans receivable of $17.7 million. All of our loans are current, and our total assets did decrease last year by $32.2 million. The liabilities consist of operating liabilities of just under $41 million. Gift annuities are $1.4 million. Liabilities to beneficial owners of $7.3 million. Organizational trusts of $13.9 million. Future gifts payable of $2.3 million. And quasi-endowments of $7.1 million, for a total of $73.2 million. Our total net assets were $9.4 million. Our statement of activities appears on page 145. Last year, we earned $6.3 million in total support and revenue and distributed $3.7 million to endowments, trusts, and annuitants. Expenses totaled $2.2 million, leaving an increase in our net assets of $443,226. On page 149 through 157, you'll find the standard audit notes. If you read notes 4 through 9, you can get a better understanding of the liability section and what the different categories are. On page 158 through 160, we've included our proposed budget in 2 formats and our compensation package details for 2025.
2023 was a challenging year for the foundation. We saw our first significant outflow of assets. Much of what the foundation manages are revocable assets. The demand notes and charitable investment fund can be partially or completely withdrawn at any time. Our total assets went down from $114.9 million in 22 to $82.2 million in 23, for a total decline of $32.7 million. Now, please understand, I'm not saying we had a stock market loss of $32.7 million. We had withdrawals from our demand notes and CIF program totaling $32.7 million. Well, what happened? Well, I could give you a complicated answer, but basically, the Federal Reserve began to raise rates dramatically. Starting in March of 22 and didn't stop until July of 23. The rate went from, the federal funds rate went from 0.25, or actually from 0 to 0.25 to 5.25 to 5.5. This pushed rates for CDs from 2% to over 5%. And the best money market accounts from 0.71 to also over 5%. Today, the best CD and money markets are between 5 and 5.35%. We couldn't turn our portfolio around fast enough to move our rates that high. Some individuals saw the jump in rates and moved their funds from the foundation to their local banks. Now, of the $32.7 million, only $8.2 million was actually withdrawn by individuals. The rest of it was withdrawn, the rest of the withdrawals, which is $24.5 million, were from one entity, the Church Extension Loan Fund. When SELF did not have loan demand, they were placing their reserves with the foundation. They were able to make a little bit on their reserves while they waited for loan demand. And the foundation was also able to earn a service fee, so it was a win-win for both ministries. However, when interest rates jumped to 5% in a little over a year, suddenly the South had the same issue we had. Individuals and ministries were pulling money out because they could get a better rate elsewhere. Now, the good news is that our portfolio has worked as it was designed to work. The vast majority of our investments can be sold on short notice to fund withdrawals, which is exactly what we did. And this was a good test to see if we could really do what we always said we could do. And we were able to deliver $24.5 million to SELF over a little more of a 3-month period. More good news is that we made portfolio changes, and as of July 1st, our rates are now between 5 and 5.5%, depending on how much you invest. Now, this has made us competitive with bank short-term CDs and money market accounts. Another bit of good news is that despite the difficulties in selling a large portion of our portfolio, we were still able to have positive income of almost $443,000. However, most of that income is due to operational capital gains of $440,000. We developed our method of investing these revocable funds starting in 1993. We wanted to be able to offer a competitive rate of return for our investors and at the same time maintain liquidity to fund withdrawals that's needed. From 1993 through early 2022, the foundation offered a rate that met or exceeded the best bank money market accounts or even CDs. For most of these almost 31 years, our rate was between 0.5 and 1% higher than the best rate in the country. We have done a good job, and anyone who has invested with us over that period has come out ahead of where they would have been if they had stayed with their local bank for that entire period. We have a proven track record. The Federal Reserve generally does not raise rates this fast. Also, they do not usually leave rates high for a long period of time. Most economists expect that rates will be down between 1 and 1.5% by this time next year. We promise you the foundation will continue to be competitive and exceed the best bank rates and interest rates as they come down to a more normal range. This past April, we were able to distribute another $500,000 in grants. The total number of grants issued since 2017 is 142, and we have now distributed a total of more than $5 million since we started this program. Please watch these videos from a few of the 2024 recipients.
There's an expression in French, merci mille fois, which means thank you 1,000 times. At IM, we could say 1,000 thanks and many, many more, and never truly express our appreciation for all that Foundation has done through the grant program. Our fields have really benefited from this program, Ivory Coast and India and Cuba and others, by receiving grants. And each time that people receive them, they're amazed at people in the States caring enough to help them continue the ministries there. We can say again, thank you. And our prayer is that God would continue to bless Foundation and that this program can continue to bless others.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My name is Derek Altum, and I get to be the Director of Events and Development for D6 Family Ministry. And part of that responsibility is overseeing and directing Vertical 3 Ministries, and a part of that is the yearly Vertical 3 conference that takes place at the National Convention in July. And we could not do what we do in serving preschoolers and younger elementary age students, first, second, third graders, and fourth, fifth, and sixth graders, and middle school and high school students at the National Convention and the Vertical 3 Conference without the partnership that we have with the Free Will Baptist Foundation. We want to thank the foundation for their generosity in investing in the church of today so that they could be more prepared in their service now and in the future. And part of that is them buying into the mission of Vertical 3. And ultimately, the real passion at the Vertical 3 conference is to see students dedicate their hearts to faithful service to the Lord, no matter what He calls them to do, how He's wired them. And we are so thankful for the generous grant from the Free Will Baptist Foundation this year in 2024. And we're excited to see how this investment by the foundation is going to be used in Tampa, Florida to help students discover their talents, develop their leadership, and to dedicate their hearts to faithful service to the Lord. And I'm thankful I get to be a part of it as well. So thank you to the Free Will Baptist Foundation. Be praying for us this year in Tampa as we seek to invest in this generation of Free Will Baptist young people who are preparing to serve the next generation. Blessings.
Hi, my name is Tim, and I'm one of the IM missionaries working here in Svistov, Bulgaria. And this empty lot behind me is the place where we are going to build the very first Free Will Baptist Church in Bulgaria. Over 20 years ago, we came here with the dream and hope that people would be able to see that there's more to life than just what's around them, that they would receive spiritual healing through Jesus Christ. And now with the grant from the Free Will Baptist Foundation, we've been able to purchase this property and are making plans right now for the first Free Will Baptist Church in Bulgaria to be built. In our town, a church hasn't been built in over 200 years. And the very first church built in that time period is going to be a Free Will Baptist Church. So I want to thank you for your generosity. I want to thank the Free Will Baptist Foundation for help making this a reality. And I can't wait to see what God is going to do in the future here in Svistov. Thank you very much.
Mike Cousineau here with the 1040 Initiative, a strategic partner of International Missions of Free Will Baptists. I just want to thank the Free Will Baptist Foundation for their generous donation to our Christian school in the northeast corner of Côte d'Ivoire. It's the first and only Christian school, and in 2014 we opened the school with 19 students. And this past school year, God has blessed us to have 500 students. About a fourth of our students live on campus. And the gift that the foundation just recently gave us will help us to build a dormitory to house our middle school, high school boys who are presently living in a shipping container that's been renovated, but it's going to allow them to have a more stable environment in order to succeed in their studies. So a special shout out to the Free Will Baptist Foundation for making an impact where Free Will Baptists work and to help us train the future leaders in Côte d'Ivoire with Christian principles and pointing them to Christ. So special thanks to you and to the entire denomination. God bless.
This year, the board voted to award an additional $100,000 as infrastructure grants. As we looked at our denomination, we see areas that are vital to our infrastructure. We're all aware of denominational's pastoral shortage and the fact that we are losing churches. To address these needs, we have given a grant of $9,000 to the pastoral counseling program that the executive office has been organizing. From our perspective, it makes sense that if we are facing a pastoral shortage, we need to do all we can to keep the pastors that we have by providing counseling to keep them pastoring. We also gave $9,000 to the pastoral placement program, which again is being organized by the executive office to help churches find pastors and pastors find churches. Another way we are helping with the pastoral shortage is by providing $17,000 to be split between our 3 colleges as pastoral scholarships. Another priority of the denomination is that we need more missionaries and we need to get them to the field faster. Therefore, we awarded $40,000 to be divided between all the new IM and NAM missionaries appointed over the last year. One of the problems with new missionaries is that when they begin to visit churches to raise their support, they immediately go into the hole because of startup costs. This cash infusion will hopefully help in this area. A grant of $5,000 has been given to the foundation to cover the cost of training promotional personnel from all of our regional ministries and the national ministries by going to a planned giving conference and getting training. We also have two ministries that are vital to the infrastructure and the future of our denomination that need additional funding. Vertical 3 is the ministry that is having an enormous impact on our young people. And in our view, we must support this ministry as it is providing our future leaders. We also believe that women's ministry is vital to the future of our denomination. Therefore, we have awarded $10,000 each to WNAC and Vertical 3. Let me just say to all of you as individuals and churches that we need to all be contributing to the infrastructure areas of our denomination as well. And if you really like the grant program, then I would encourage you to consider investing in our demand notes and charitable investment fund. We take these monies, invest them in such a way that we can give you a very competitive rate of return, and at the same time strategically harvest capital gains to fund the grant program. Right now, you can receive between 5 and 5.5% depending on the amount invested. The more money we manage, the more money that we can use to do grants. If we had an additional $20 million invested in this fund, we would be able to take the grant program to $750,000. If we had an additional $40 million to invest, we could do grants of $1 million a year. And you know, as great as an impact as the grant program has, I'm always disappointed that we couldn't have done more. This year we had $5.3 million in grant requests, but only $500,000 to distribute. Free Will Baptists have a lot of worthy projects that need to be funded, and the only way the foundation can meet this need is to increase the number of assets we're managing. So if you got $1 million or $2 million lying around in a bank somewhere, then send it to us and we can begin to expand this program. There are a lot of banks where you can invest your money right now and get a pretty good rate of return. But you know what? Your local bank is never going to give a grant to a Free Will Baptist ministry. And if you really want to see this grow, we need this pool to grow faster. And I think as Free Will Baptists, we need to think strategically and pool all of our Free Will Baptist resources so that we can go further to reach the world for Christ. The estate planning program is going well. Last year we delivered 201 estate plans. And so far this year we delivered 84. Even though we have reduced staff, we're only projecting 175 in 2024. We started this program in 2013, and so we're in our 11th year so far, and we've delivered 2,654 plans to Free Will Baptist families. The estimated value of those assets is $1.1 billion. From what we've been able to determine, around 35% of the estate plans are leaving a gift to ministries, and most of them are tithing. This means the estimated impact from these completed estate plans is around $38.5 million to ministries. Now, some of those estate gifts are going to be far into the future before they happen, but many ministries have already been blessed with estate gifts from this ministry. But the impact is going to continue to grow over time. As most of you are aware, this aspect of our ministry is not self-supporting and is being subsidized by the foundation. In 2023, the ministry's deficit was almost $219,000. This deficit was not a problem when the foundation had over $100 million in assets, but with reduced service fees, we're cutting back on our spending in this area. So one of our field representatives, Barry Simpson, has become part-time as of March of this year. He continues to serve all of our clients in his area and is available to do presentations in any of the churches in his region. We're beginning to see more of our families call us to get their estate plans done. Many times when we do a presentation in a church, there are families present that don't know that they need an estate plan, or they may not be ready yet. Some of those that are calling in are people who are realizing this is something they really need now. Some are responding to our ads in One Magazine and from our Sunday School book ads. We would like to supercharge these call-ins, and we'd like all of our pastors to help us with this. Watch this short video.
Good morning, church. My name is Mike Wooten, and I'm the president of Cornerstone Estate Services, and we're the ministry partner of the Free Will Baptist Foundation. I'm honored to be here with you today, and I want to thank the pastor for allowing us to show this video. 12 years ago, the Free Will Baptist Foundation determined that we needed to have some type of end-of-life planning for our denomination. We consulted with Christian lawyers, judges, and business people, and we came up with the Free Will Baptist Estate Plan. In the last 12 years, we've helped over 2,500 families put a plan together to protect their families and to make sure that the government stays out of their private business. A common misconception among many people is that an estate plan is only for the wealthy or the elderly. However, a properly planned estate is not only essential for all families, it's also a biblical mandate that can significantly increase the impact of the church's ministry. Free Will Baptist families who learn and practice the principles of estate planning not only help their families navigate through an emotionally tumultuous time, they also have the opportunity to continue the ministry of the church long after their passing. We would like to share some information that you need to know in order to make some informed decisions that will impact you and your family. Proper planning will show you how to protect yourself, your spouse, and your children. It's our goal to educate you concerning estate planning tools and techniques used in the Free Will Baptist Estate Plan. An estate plan is something we all need to do eventually. Take the time and get educated, and when the time is right for you, Cornerstone and the Foundation will be here to help.
We would like to have many of you to agree to show this video 1 or 2 times a year in your churches, maybe sometime at the beginning part of your service, just to keep our ministry in the minds of our families. When you select a particular date to show the video, we will also provide cards that can be either inserted in the bulletin or distributed on your pews or seats for the people to fill out, and either give them to the pastor or perhaps put them in the offering plate so they can be contacted. The card will also have a QR code that will take them to a longer 6-minute video, or if they wish, they can watch our full presentations on our website at fwbgifts.com. We would love to have all of our pastors to sign up to participate in this, and if you're interested, I would invite you to come by our booth and talk with Mike Wooten and get a date set up that you could do this. I realize that anyone can go to a local attorney in their area and get their estate plan documents done. Why should they use the foundation? We're offering much more than document preparation. The discounted price we have negotiated with our attorneys is also less than what a typical attorney will charge. We will deliver your documents to you, but that's just the beginning of what the foundation does. After your documents are delivered, we will contact you once a year to see if you have any changes, and chances are, over your lifetime, you will need to make changes from time to time. When the first spouse dies, we will contact the survivor to help them sort through what needs to be done. And by the way, we're willing to do this in person if necessary. Then when the second spouse dies, we will be there to help the family and make sure your estate is processed the way you wish it to be distributed. And there's no charge for these calls or visits. Your local attorney is not going to offer this kind of service. Or if he does, it won't be for free. The foundation considers estate planning program part of our ministry, and we want to be able to minister to your families. I don't think we realize the potential impact this program could have on our denomination. Consider that we have around 50,000 families in the denominations. Our numbers indicate that of the estate plans that we have done so far, The average estate is $409,000. Now that number might be skewed a little higher than the actual average because those who have significant assets are more prone to do an estate plan, so therefore the numbers might be more like 300,000. But using that figure, the total value of the 50,000 families' estates is $15 billion. If they all tithe on their estates, that would be $1.5 billion. If all of that money were in endowments paying out 5% a year, the annual income from those endowments would be $75 million. Can you imagine the impact Free Will Baptist Ministries could have with that much income? Please give your church members an opportunity to set up their estate plan with the foundation. We continue to work through the registration process for our investment programs and will soon be registered in Tennessee. Other states will follow quickly. However, due to state restrictions, we may not register in every state, but the vast majority will be available to us. Even though we are in the registration process, we are still open for business. Each state will allow a limited number of new accounts while we're going through the process, so come by our booth and talk to us. We'll be glad to help you open an account. And I want to remind you again that our rates are between 5 and 5% right now. Our 2025 budget is only slightly higher than our 24 budget, and we proposed a 3% raise for all of our employees. You will also note the proposed deficit for the estate planning portion of our ministry is projected to be reduced by almost $60,000 from the 2023 income statement. The theme of our booth this year is 1 Corinthians 13. We're encouraging everyone to have this kind of love that the passage instructs us to have. We're especially emphasizing verse 7, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. I was truly fortunate to grow up in a family that practiced this verse. My great-grandfather, Oscar Townsley, was born in 1885, and he had a pretty rough beginning of his life. His mother died when he was 6 months old, and they lived in a pretty rough town in Illinois that was just right on the Ohio River. At the age of 7, he saw his father shot down right in front of him, and he became an orphan. He was taken in by a peddler and raised with his family. In addition to this, he was of Irish descent at a time when the Irish were not well liked and had a reputation for being drunkards and brawlers. At the age of 17, he went out on his own and found himself in northwest Arkansas, where he met and married my great-grandmother. Now, based on what I've told you so far about Oscar, you might think he would have been a very angry young man. Look at all the sad things that have happened to him. He lost his mother as a baby, and I'm sure the memory of his father being shot in front of him would still linger in his mind. And then being discriminated against because he was Irish. My great-grandmother's family had a Church of Christ background, and I believe the Lord must have got a hold of Oscar. Because instead of being a bitter and angry young man, he was an extremely loving man. My grandmother described him as the most perfect man she had ever met next to Jesus. My mom said that every time you were around him, if he was near you, he wanted a hug. Those traits were passed down to my grandmother, and despite much tragedy in her life, she too was a very loving person who insisted on a hug if you were near her. All of our children have these same traits. And when we gathered at her small home with around 25 people, that little home literally shook with laughter. It was a family that genuinely cared for one another. It was a family that bared all things, believed all things, hoped all things, and endured all things. When you focus on the word believeth, it's interesting to note that believeth is the same word used in John 3:16, whosoever believeth in him. In John 3:16, it obviously means saving faith. In 1 Corinthians 13, believing in someone doesn't mean you're gullible, but it does have the same idea of faith. but not saving faith, but that I believe in you, we might say, I've got your back. When you have people who love you like this, it makes it a whole lot easier to take risks in your life. Because if you fail, you still know your family loves you. I have taken some personal risks in life, and I know, knowing that I had that kind of love coming from my family, helped me to know it'd be all right if I failed. As the director of Foundation, we have taken some risks. We launched the estate planning program not knowing for sure if it would work. I remember talking to a wise deacon in our church when we were planning to launch the program. I told him we were going to spend a lot of money, and if it fell flat on his face, I'd probably be out of a job. When we decided to start the grant program, there were doubters. They asked, can we do this? I'm thankful for my board who believed all things and had my back. And by the way, you understand that my board is not only made up of 9 elected members, it's made up of all the directors. And all the directors have always had my back. And I've always had theirs too. But mostly, I'm thankful to a little Irish great-grandpa that had a 1 Corinthians 13 type of love that became a part of my legacy. Brother Monterey, that's my report.